At this time, the time is 2:03 on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022, and I call this meeting of the Board of Voter Registration and Elections of Beaufort County to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. First, are there any public comments? No? All right. So the next order of business is to approve the minutes from our meeting on February 23rd. Does anybody have any changes that they think should be made? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Caroline. Second? Craig? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. All right. Unfinished business, reminder to, if you haven't already, submit your list to the voter registration office as soon as possible for the June primary, so that they can get all the poll workers and clerks trained in time, so it's not a mad dash at the end. So let's move on to the committee reports. Ron, facilities, do you have anything to report?
No, we've not had a meeting.
Craig, finance.
No, nothing to report.
All right, I'll turn that over to you, Bernadette, for the legislative affairs.
Okay, the legislative committee meeting was held on March 15th, 2022. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss questions for a meeting with members of the Beaufort County Legislative Delegation in reference to voting legislation being debated during the second regular session of the 124th South Carolina General Assembly. The meeting began with an update from Marie Smalls. She shared tomorrow, Wednesday, March the 16th, started candidate filing at 12 noon for partisan offices. She and her staff have been working to accommodate the district's changes. In addition, she shared that Representative William G. Herb Kurtzman and Weston J. Newton came in today to file. She shared some of our concerns with some of the election laws, to include the following: election law changes considering the current 1,500 limit of registered voters per precinct, basing the number of early voting sites on voting population instead of square mileage of the county. Calculations based on the square mileage requires Beaufort County needing funding for 5 sites instead of 4. And the State Election Commission is recommending 4 polling managers per early voting sites under the proposed new early voting bill, House Bill 4919. This proposal is, in staff's view, is inadequate due to 1, a minimum of 2 poll managers are needed to process voters. 2, number of poll workers needed to assist with voter processing takes 3 to 4, and 2 poll managers to assist with curbside voting. She recommends the proposed law be flexible to allow for a number of early voting sites and the number of poll managers needed. The bill has passed the House. We had several questions that we discussed. How many people were purged in Beaufort County? Approximately 11,032 voters were purged between December 1st, 2020 and March 1st, 2022. Originally, there were approximately 145,000 registered voters. Currently, there are 133,968 voters after the purge. The purge process is done by the State Election Commission. Voters who have not participated in 2 general elections are sent confirmation cards to verify their status. If no response from the voter, they are placed in inactive archive status. And it was suggested that voters go to scvotes.org website to check their voting status. What are the criteria for purging voters? Not participating in 2 general elections, not responding to a confirmation card from the state. If the voters do not respond, they are placed in inactive status. However, if a voter is inactive and show up on election day, they will be returned to active status so they can vote. How many machines per site would be needed for early voting? This will be based on the size and need of the facility used. Currently at the in-person absentee locations, the following is what's being used. In Beaufort, there's 6, Hilton Head 6, Bluffton 4 or 5. What would be the 2 additional sites used for early voting? Possible sites include St. Helena, Bluffton, Hilton Head, because there are more active voters. Question, Ms. Dore suggested that Sheldon percentages turnout is pretty good. Why not consider having a site out there? The response, past election participation percentages should guide us to where to put additional polling sites. Dale, Grace Hill, Labico, and Sheldon, voter turnout is low. What is the number of the bill that mentions private entities? The bill is House Bill 4621. There has been no debate on this bill that we are aware of. Other concerns with House Bill 4919, it limits the number of authorized representatives who can return a ballot, and proposed changes to election laws are to ensure election integrity and eliminate possible voter fraud. House Bill 4882 was also discussed, and we talked about the sole source paper. Only 1 or 2 places that you can get the paper is a concern, and ballot harvesting, where people go and collect ballots and change the ballot to what they want it to be. That's another concern. And the meeting was adjourned at 5:25 p.m. That completes my report.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
I would just comment that I agree with that first statement in there, that 4 people working one of those early precincts is not gonna be enough at all. I was in the Hilton Head one last year for the first several days, and number one, a couple of people couldn't make it. But when you have as many people show up for that turnout in cars that want to be voted absentee outside or curbside, it takes a lot of time to get them sorted out, get them fitted in, how you take care of them, how you get the machine out to them, and the whole drill. So I agree that we need more people at those precincts.
I think I also mentioned during that meeting that this necessitates reiterate the need for us to meet with our legislators so that they know the actual number of staff that we need in order to conduct fair, impartial elections. If 2 people, like you say, go out to curbside, then that leaves only 5 people in there, 1 person to check in, and it's just not going to be sufficient staff to do the job. We have routinely used no less than 6 people per precinct, and I think they need to know that this knowledge comes from actually working at a precinct and actually seeing what each person is doing. So I reiterate the need to meet with our legislative delegation to maybe share some inside information as to what is not so obvious from a person in the public, but to in an honest attempt to just be effective in what we do in terms of ensuring impartial, effective elections.
Thank you. Beverly, Reprecincting Committee.
Okay. The Reprecincting Committee, and we've shared a copy of the notes from the meeting, met this morning at 11:30 at the Beaufort County Voter Registration Office on John Galt Road. Present at the meeting were the following: Jim Rowe, Chair Jean Felix, Beverly Dore, staff Wendell Roberson, Vernon Kemp, and I should add Marie Smalls. After the call to order, the committee examined the procedural aspects of the reprecincting process and discussed the update of county and voter registration office information provided by the executive director, Marie Smalls. Specifically, the office has finished updating all of the voter records with the new district information and is to be, this is parenthetically, commended for an excellent job. A copy of the ordinance, which I included in your packet of information, is furnished for your perusal. And please save this information. You may need to review and use this as a reference because it has passed. But this ordinance, just very briefly, is set forth to abolish previous county council district boundaries, to provide that the county council of Beaufort County and the Board of Education continue to be comprised of 11 member districts, 11 members, to provide that the county council members and the members of the Beaufort County Board of Education shall be elected from 11 separate districts, and to provide for severability and an effective date. End of quote. Wendell Roberson at our meeting provided the committee, who is deputy director, provided the committee with information on the proposed precinct realignment, which reviewed broken down blocks of precincts based on voting blocks. I included this information in your packets, and you should have that to refer to. This is just a working document, and we know that everything has to be approved by our legislative delegation. Some background information that was introduced today was that there are 187,000 residents in Beaufort County. We have 11 districts, 17,000 persons in a district was what county council set out as being the information on which they based their ordinance. And there will be a new district map for county council and Beaufort County. And at the next meeting, you will receive a copy of that map for your perusal. But I just wanted to note that District 4 now has both Councilman Fleewell and Alice Howard in the same district. And Joe Passaman, who is the chair of County Council, was once in District 6 and is now in District 5. We do have, as I mentioned, some very informative maps for distribution that will be shared at our April meeting. Respectfully submitted, Commissioner Beverly Dore.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? All righty. For the reprecincting, it's not, because it has to go through so many steps to get to approval, it's gotta go, what's the name what's the name again, Wendell?
Revenue and Fiscal Affairs. What's the name of it?
Department of Revenue and Fiscal Affairs.
It has to go through the Department of Revenue and Fiscal Affairs, and then once they make their changes, then it's gotta, the delegation has to approve it, and then it has to go through the House and the Senate, and there's a whole bunch of steps in between. So, one of the recommendations that we talked about this morning was, when we present the proposal to our delegation, maybe asking that this be effective in 2023. So with that, I just, because these things are gonna take time. As you can see from these numbers, these are just the 18 to 20 2,900, and then there's the ones that are 15 to 1,800, and then the Revenue Fiscal Affairs Department is going to make their changes as well. So this isn't something that we can just do in one single sitting. It's gonna take time. So, we just wanted a motion, for it to take place in 2023. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Caroline, second. Thank you, Aline.
Yes.
All in
Sorry, I
favor?
missed that in my report.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Okay, and Rules Committee.
The Rules Committee will be meeting this Friday at 1 o'clock, and we will be specifically looking at the manual that was passed out at the last meeting. Just before they put it away in the Smithsonian, we're going to try to rewrite it as reflecting the change, not just the changes that have been made since the manual was first introduced, but anything that would require board action. We will make sure that that's also indicated in our next report. We will have this ready to go by the next meeting. That's our goal.
Okay. With no new business, we're ready for the director's report, Marie.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just want to make sure everybody can hear me today. We don't have a very long board report, but we will touch briefly on a few elections update, facility updates, and a few miscellaneous items. As you know, we have 2 elections coming up. And the first one is the Hilton Head PSD Voting District number 4. And we're asking that you be prepared for it. It's typically just on Hilton Head, but anybody else who want to volunteer to help out the Hilton Head board members that will be working that election, I'm sure he would welcome it. And but keep in mind and put it on your calendar that that election will be held on May 31st. This will be one of the few times we will have 2 elections going on at the same time, because we will have the June primaries going on at the same time. So know that we will need assistance. Mr. Wedgeworth will need some assistance.
I got a question.
Yes.
What if you have an election and nobody shows up?
It will still be an election.
That's
It
what I
doesn't
thought.
matter. Election must go on.
I've been talking to people about this, and they say, we won't vote on that. We don't understand that.
Yeah,
So I'm
unfortunately,
expecting
that
real-
happens a lot.
Low, what I'm saying is, I don't think that many people are gonna vote. I hadn't talked to so yet that's gonna vote.
It's not a whole lot to vote on those anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Generally, that's true
that's
with
something,
primaries.
the announcement for that will be out in the paper on the 31st of this month. And so people will have an idea that there will be a vacant. I think it was effective March the 1st, the resignation of the representative that's representing District 4 right now in the PSD. There will be a vacancy, or there is a vacancy effective on the 1st of this month. So some people may not even know that he has resigned that position, but it will be announced on the 31st. There will be a public notice, and there should already be a candidate notice out letting people know that the office is vacant. But that's handled by the PSD themselves. So as we get closer to the election, more people will know about it. And if 10 people show up, it will be 10 votes for whoever they vote for. But an election will take place. And what we did in that election, we did combine some of those polling locations. I think we have 3 polling locations in that whole election. So I think it's the Hilton Head School for the Arts, the Presbyterian Church, and
Plantation House.
the Plantation House. That's where those polls will be. Okay,
I'm sorry, excuse me. What is PSD?
the Public Service District. And make sure you set your calendar because you will have to certify that election, and that will be done on June the 2nd at 11 o'clock, which means you have to meet to certify the election results. So put that date on your calendar as well. Okay, you also have included in your package, and you may be getting an email from Wendell on it, is the training schedule for the June primaries. It will be done virtually again this year. That seems to work well for a lot of our poll managers. And now that they have gotten the hang of how to operate WebEx, everybody except Mr. Clifford. But most of our poll workers have gotten the hang of that over the last 2 years doing virtual training. And I think they prefer it because they do stay in the comforts of their home and get the same information we would have done in person. That does not mean we will only have virtual. We will still continue to conduct the hands-on trainings, and we will have training set up for clerks, and we will have training set up for poll managers as well. These are folks who want to better understand the operations of our election equipment. And for the clerks, we just want to make sure that they understand all the paperwork that are needed for what they are doing. And it's more important now than ever that paperwork are done completely and correctly. So I know Mr. Clifford did not have a report, and we don't have an official report, but I just want to mention that our facility is still inadequate to house all of our voting equipment and supplies. And we mentioned at the last board meeting that the facility that was being offered by the county is unacceptable. And so my proposal in the future, and we can talk about it as a committee, that we have an addition added to our existing facility. That way we will have access at all times, at any time, to all of our equipment and all of our supplies. The next thing I would like to mention is that the SCARE Mid-Year Conference is less than a week and a half away, and we are looking forward to that. It's not on a large scale like we normally would have at our conferences, but it's much bigger than other mid-year conferences because right now we have about 100 people that's registered to come down and visit our beautiful Beaufort by the sea or by the bay. And so we are looking forward to sharing information, networking, and get caught up on what are being proposed for the upcoming elections. We will have presentation from the State Election Commission and the U.S. Postal Service. So I know you all have gotten an email from Wendell, so please comply. We want to make Beaufort look good. And any of you who can come, I know some of you may have full-time jobs and not going to be able to come, but we do have a Sunday afternoon, kind of like meet and greet, and then Monday afternoon, Monday evening, we have an awards banquet. So if you can't come during the day for the important information on that Monday, at least try to come in the afternoon so you will still be able to meet and see some of the other folks from around the state. All right, so that's pretty much it, unless you have any questions for me.
Do you have a final, I don't know what you call it, agenda, itinerary or whatever for the mid-year conference?
I do have one, and I will send it out to everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Announcements, reminder that your ethics filings are due by next Wednesday. I had problems getting in at first, so if anybody hasn't done it and they're having problems with the new site, right above where you would log in on the new site, it says, like verify your email address. When I called them to get help, they said you have to do that if you have not used the new site yet. So once you do that, you'll have no problems getting in. So, yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't make that statement, but.
Well, I didn't have any problems once I did that. Once I did that step.
They did mention that you had to migrate your old information to the new site, and Vernon has a number that you can call. His name is Michael, who migrates your information and helps you with that
Oh,
process.
so some people because mine did it automatically, so some people's may not have.
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
But I'm saying, the numbers that are given on the screen, none of those numbers worked. But Vernon had a number that connected me directly with a person who is over that department.
Okay,
Good to know. Good to know.
yeah. Vernon has the magic number, check.
I wish I had it. I left it.
Does anybody have anything else to add? Okay. Our next board meeting is scheduled for April 27th, 2022 at 2 p.m. right here in County Council Chambers. The time is 2:29 and I adjourn this meeting. Or do I have a motion to adjourn? Sorry.
So moved.
I so moved.
All right, meeting is adjourned.